I'd like to pass the baton here to my colleague, Stephen Saum, who is the NPCA's Director of Strategic Communications, and he's the editor of our national award-winning magazine of the Peace Corps community, WorldView magazine. Stephen?
Thanks very much, Glenn, and thank you all who have joined us here this evening. A very important time for all of us here in the Peace Corps community, an absolutely critical time for everyone who's connected to Ukraine, whether you're those of us who have personal experience, friends, colleagues, former students who are there, or you're tied, as so many of us are in the Peace Corps community, through the ideas and ideals and the commitment to building peace and friendship. I would like to begin actually with just a moment of silence for the thousands already who have died in this invasion. If we could please just join in a moment of silence for those who are in harm's way and those who have already perished. Thank you. And I should say at this moment, Russian troops are shelling the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, in Ukraine, and so what may happen is a disaster like none of us have ever seen. When I personally went to Ukraine, it was back in 1994, and I taught at a university in Lutsk in Western Ukraine, and I've gone back many times over the years to serve as an election observer in Ukraine. One of the cities that is essentially under Russian control now is the city of Kherson, where I served as an observer in 2014, shortly after the Revolution of Dignity, and then after the Vladimir Putin seized Crimea, which is right near Kherson. And at the end of the day of voting, I happened to be in a store getting some food where we were going to go to the polling place where we're going to close for the evening. And a woman saw my badge with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. She was buying some buckwheat. She said, "You're an observer, yes?" And I said, yes, I was. She said, "Thank you for being here." And she said, "Help us, because we've been living under bandits for 20 years. They've all been bandits. Putin, too. He's a bandit. It's like slavery. The young people of Ukraine are smart, and they deserve a chance. We need to bring an end to all of this." For a while, it seemed like they have. But here we are now, 8 years later. The country has been invaded. Kherson has been hit very hard. There are hundreds killed in the fighting there just in Kherson, I know from an acquaintance there. So while we're addressing the horrors that are going on in Ukraine, here in the Peace Corps community, we're also trying to do what we can to help those who are in harm's way. And so I'd like to introduce a few more members of the Peace Corps community who have been part of the efforts with the RPCV Alliance for Ukraine to try and help, and with some of their own experience to help in other ways. I'll just introduce them real briefly and let them tell you a little bit about themselves, where they served, and what they're doing. First is Raisa Alstodt, who served in Ukraine from 2019 to 2020. We can get Raisa's video on. Natalia Joseph, who also was a volunteer serving 2019 to 20 and was evacuated. And Jeffrey Janis, who served from 2004 to 2006 in Khmelnytsky. So we've got all 3 decades where that Peace Corps volunteers have been serving in Ukraine represented here. And Natalia, tell us a little bit about what the RPCV Alliance for Ukraine has been doing to try and help during this time of crisis.
My name is Natalia Joseph. I currently sit on the board for the Alliance for Ukraine. I'm the secretary and then also working with a few other board members on communications. I served from August 2019 to the evacuation in March of 2020, and I served in a city called Mohyliv-Podilsky, which is actually right on the border with Moldova. And so while right now they are relatively safe from the war, they are doing a lot of work with refugees who are coming from the eastern part of the country. I taught English there and worked a little bit in Vinica as well, which is a larger city a little bit north, on advocacy and political advocacy with college students. So that was what I did in my short time there. Raisa, would you like to talk about where you served and then also what you're doing?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Raisa Alstodt, and Stephen already said like when we served, I was in Cherkasska Oblast, which is in like the central part of the country, about 3 hours south of Kyiv. So right now, my site hasn't seen much action, which is a blessing, but there's obviously a lot going on. So I'm going to speak a little bit more to what the Alliance for Ukraine has been doing, and some of the ways that you could potentially help if you're interested. So far, we as Peace Corps volunteers from Ukraine have been working to pool our resources and get humanitarian aid to Ukraine, as well as pushing our representatives by sending them, ask for them to support the legislation that's out there to further support Ukraine. Also, a big thing right now is sharing true and vetted press resources and press information, as well as obviously many of us are trying to track down our loved ones in Ukraine, host families, technical trainers, language trainers, counterparts as well, and then also just getting refugees out of country. So there's a lot of ongoing efforts that we are helping as the Alliance to run, but also just using our resources with the amount of return volunteers that we have from there and allowing people to kind of take the lead. We did want to give a special thanks to the Friends of Moldova and Afghanistan, as well as the Alliance for Refugees. And I know I'm saying the wrong name there. I apologize for that. But those two groups have been super helpful to us and just like helping us best assist everybody with this ongoing situation. And one big thing we did want to say is we did want to give a disclaimer that there are a lot of fake resources out there and fake news sites and fake donation sites. So if you are trying to donate or trying to share information, just try to make sure it's a vetted source or like a verified source so that the information that's being shared is the correct information. A big thing is like Russian bots are a big thing with the information coming out of that area. So that's one thing we would want to mention to you guys. And if you would like more information, you should see a link. You can follow us on our Alliance for Ukraine website. We also have a Facebook or an Instagram. So we have like specifics there on organizations that you can donate to for humanitarian aid, or specifically there's a link to write your representatives and it's pre-done for you. So you can edit if you would like, but that information's already all in there for you. And also if you have any additional questions or just want to reach out to us as an organization, you can from those sites as well. And I will pass it to Jeffrey now.
Okay, so thank you. My name is Jeffrey Janis. I was in Ukraine 2004 to 2006. I serve on the board of the National Peace Corps Association, and I also work at UCLA as the Peace Corps campus recruiter. My site placement was actually at a Jewish organization called Hesed Besht, which is in Western Ukraine in the city of Khmelnytsky. There are about 170 Hesids throughout the former Soviet Union and 11 Hesids in Ukraine. And the Hesids basically provide support to the local Jewish community, including food, medicine, support group, and clothing. It is estimated that in Ukraine, there are currently more than 350,000 Jews. I think it's important to understand that according to the Soviet census of 1926, some 50% of the Soviet Jews at that time, or 2.7 million Jews, lived in Ukraine. And of the 6 million Jews who were killed in the Holocaust, it is estimated that 1.3 million were just from the Ukraine region. Most American Jews have at least one Jewish relative from Ukraine. Now, what I find so ironic is that Putin has attacked Ukraine, saying he's trying to rid Ukraine of neo-Nazism. And the irony is that the president and the prime minister of Ukraine are both Jewish. And it is the only country besides Israel in which the top two leaders are Jewish. On September 29th to September 30th in 1941, 33,771 Jews were systematically shot dead and buried in a ravine in Kyiv at Baba Yar. And as many as 150,000 people, Ukrainians, Romans, Soviets, and the physically and mentally disabled were also murdered there by the Nazis over a longer period of time, making this the largest grave in the Holocaust. Yesterday, Putin bombed Baba Yar. President Zelensky released a statement today in Hebrew, calling for Jews around the world to speak out against the attacks on Ukraine. He said, "I am now addressing the Jews of the world. Don't you see what's happening? This is why it's very important that millions of Jews around the world do not remain silent now. Nazism is born in silence. So shout about the killings of civilians, of Ukrainians." There are many places to support the Jews of Israel, and there are three that I encourage you to check into. One is the Joint Distribution Committee, which is the organization that supports the Hasids. Second is the World Union of Progressive Judaism, which supports the Jews who are part of the Reform or Progressive community. And the third is Chabad, which also supports other Jews within the country. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jeffrey. And you'll find links to some of those in the NPCA statement as well, which we've updated to include a number of other links, as well as some organizations that are recommended by the USAID and the State Department as well. I'd like to thank all the panelists for being a part of this here this evening, and thank everyone in the Peace Corps community who has already made an effort to stand with Ukraine, because in this mission of working to build peace and justice, it's important to stand up against injustice wherever we see it, whether that's here at home, while we're serving as volunteers, or when we see it on the other side of the world. Thanks so much. And Glenn, let me turn things back to you.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and thanks to all of you, Raisa, Natalia, and Jeffrey, for your service and for speaking on behalf of Ukrainians tonight. Very much appreciate you joining us this evening. Congressman